I'm not taking that to Gibraltar with me. I'm not doing that. That's just too much. We want to get to Zurich. That's when I'm going to stop by the post office and then box up a lot of things I don't need to have right away. No, it's not. This is 111. That will be the next one. That's the next one. It's 112. That's what I mean. Good idea to kind of fill up some unleaded. There's the next one. Going to go to Carrefour. And yeah, the Carrefour's right here, so I'm just go inside, park the car, put away the GoPro just for more inside, and put it back on. We're ready to head to Linea de la Concepcion. And I think I can get there without the knapsack. I don't like to hurt this knapsack at all. It sucks. Worst. I'm sorry. It's the worst edition I ever chose. Okay, let's find a parking spot. Look alright. Ceuta 95. It's like €1.21 per liter. That's like $6.40 a gallon. But it's about 2.5 times more than I would pay back home. So I'm not all that concerned. But people say distances are short and cars get great gas mileage. I mean, so far this has been pretty well. This little bitty Audi A3. I want to park in the shade if I can. Right there. Yeah. Doesn't seem like much, but it'll definitely be much better later. Okay. Alright, so let's go on in. Hit stop and take care of business when I come back.
Miro a un lado por si encuentro la complicidad en tus ojos, por si acaso me haces algún gesto y noto que de nuevo ganamos confianza. Tomo aire para hablarte muy bajito cuando llegues a mi hombro. Demasiada tempestad para un viaje. Mírame, pero no digas nada.
Gosh. What was it? 21 liters of Ceuta 95 costs a grand total of €26. So that's like $6.50 a gallon approximately. Yeah, so gas isn't really that cheap, and no wonder a lot of people don't drive. You would not see large SUVs with big V8 engines. That's a rarity around here, and you couldn't afford to. I mean, 5 gallons at €26, you could not generally afford that. Because you're going to be paying over €100 each time you go. So, Europe is just
setting up international pressure on North Korea.
We are not in a position to allow North Korea to point a nuclear-tipped missile at us.
North Korea recognizes that any response by Washington on the military side could threaten the future of its regime.
Claims of collusion in alleged kidnap of a British model in Milan are denied.
How could you think that she was involved in this? That's just evil.
And some athletes at the World Championships in London struck by stomach bug.
They say they followed strict hygiene protocol, ensuring that those affected are not in contact with other guests.
This is Forces News with John Adderley.
Japan's warning of an increasing threat from North Korea's development of longer-range ballistic missiles. In its annual defense white paper, the defense minister says he'll consider allowing Japan's self-defense forces to acquire the capability to attack North Korean missile bases. That will be a major change to Japan's defense policy. Meanwhile, China's foreign ministers confirmed Beijing will enforce the latest UN sanctions against North Korea. Christopher Hill is a former chief US negotiator with North Korea. He doesn't believe the sanctions alone will be enough.
We cannot allow this country to be aiming nuclear weapons at us, meaning that we are going to have to take some measures in that shrinking space between war and peace to try to see if we can sabotage or slow down the program. This is a very serious matter, and we are not in a position really to allow North Korea to finalize and point a nuclear-tipped missile at us.
Kelsey Davenport, an expert on North Korea's nuclear programs and nuclear security, believes it's empty posturing on the part of Pyongyang.
North Korea is not going to take any acts to strike or any overt acts of aggression against the United States because it recognizes that any response by Washington on the military side could threaten the future of its regime, which Kim Jong-un certainly wants to avoid. So it's critical to remember that North Korea is playing to its domestic base.
Lieutenant Colonel James Beltran is on the front line. He's a U-2 pilot at the Osan Air Base in South Korea.
Our mission is to provide the capability for our leadership to see what's going on before anybody else. We're up there every single day to deter the North Koreans from deciding one day they can get away with something.
Forces
Radio.
Forces News.
The Pentagon says more than 130 military installations in the United States will now be allowed to shoot down drones that could endanger aviation safety or pose other threats. Vicky Turner reports.
The Pentagon issued new guidance to the military allowing installations to shoot down commercial or private drones deemed to be a threat. Pentagon spokesman Navy Captain Jeff Davis says the various branches of the military received the new guidance at the end of last week to be passed on to bases across the country. While details of the new policy remain classified, Davis said personnel on bases that have been designated no-fly areas can now target unmanned aircraft deemed to be a threat to people, facilities or other assets. Prominent locations, including the Pentagon and Washington, are already no-drone zones. The new shoot-down guidelines build on previous restrictions put in place in April that restricted drone use over 133 military bases. In June, the British government brought in new regulations stating all drones have to be registered and users must take a safety awareness test. Previously, authorities placed restrictions on drone flights near some British military bases to avoid collisions with aircraft.
You're listening to Forces Radio, Forces News.
US Secretary of State Rex Tillerson's making a brief visit to Thailand for talks on trade and security. Thailand's traditionally one of Washington's closest allies in Southeast Asia, but relations were downgraded in 2014 when its elected government was overthrown in a military coup. A 12-year-old boy died after falling through the roof of a disused building in Lancaster. Police were called to an industrial estate last night. The boy was pronounced dead at the scene. More than 40% of maternity wards in England are said to have closed their doors to expectant mothers at least once last year. Nearly 100 trusts responded to a Freedom of Information request by the Labour Party. The most common reasons given were shortages of staff or beds. The Department of Health says the closures were safety measures designed to ease pressure. There's been a slight fall in the number of candidates getting top marks in the higher exams in Scotland. 77% achieved A to C passes. That's down from 77.2% last year. Almost 3,000 fewer people were entered for the exams than in 2016.
Forces Radio. Forces News.
The British model, who was allegedly kidnapped in Italy, has spoken for the first time about what happened. Chloe Ayling, who's 20, travelled to Milan for a photo shoot on the 11th of July when she says she was kidnapped and held for 5 days.
I've been through a terrifying experience. I feared for my life second by second, minute by minute, hour by hour. I am incredibly grateful to the Italian and UK authorities for all they have done to secure my safe release. I have just arrived home after 4 weeks of being in Italy, and I haven't had the time to gather my thoughts. I'm not at liberty to say anything further until I have been debriefed by the UK police.
Chloe's lawyer's been giving more details about the case. Francesco Pesci says Chloe was told by her kidnappers she'd be sold as a slave in the Middle East.
She was told that she was going to be sold to somebody in the Middle East for sex. She was told that people were there watching her and ready to kill her if she tried anything. So she thought that the best idea was to go along with it.
A Polish man who lives in Britain was arrested on July the 18th on suspicion of kidnap and extortion. Italian police say they're working with officials in Britain and Poland as they continue investigating. Mr. Pesci is dismissing suggestions that Miss Ayling may have somehow been in on the kidnap, describing the comments as evil.
She was subject to a tremendous ordeal, and she suffered so much. And she had to relive this once, twice, 3 times during the depositions in front of the judge, during the site inspections. How could you think that she was involved in this? It's just that's just evil.
Forces Radio. Forces News.
A number of competitors taking part in the World Athletics Championships in London have come down with suspected gastroenteritis. Some of the teams affected were staying at the Tower Hotel. It says it's not a source of the illness. BBC reporter Jason Rosam is outside the hotel.
I spoke to the hotel myself this morning, and they confirmed a small number of guests have been suffering from an illness. They've worked together with the Environmental Health Office and the IAAF to investigate the origins of the illness, and they confirmed to me that the hotel was not the source of the illness. They say they followed strict hygiene protocol, ensuring that those affected are not in contact with other guests, and all public areas have been thoroughly sanitised.
Former Olympic javelin thrower Steve Backley says athletes take great precautions against illness.
A lot of athletes, of course, have travelled from countries where they're exposed to different bacteria and so on. So you always drink bottled water, you take the ice out of your water. We do that when we travel overseas. You tend to eat foods that are low risk. I think till they get to the bottom of where this bacteria's come from, sounds like it's a little bit more serious.
One of the medal favourites for the men's 200 metres, Botswana's Isaac Mawula, had to pull out of the heats last night because of a bout of the illness. Steve Backley says it's just bad luck.
It's the timing of it. So if the timing's bad and it's obviously something wrong systemically, your body shuts down, and the margins of between gold, silver, and not making finals, whatever level you are tiny at these championships, as they are at every champs.
Forces News. Sport.
Laura Muir narrowly missed out on 1500 metres bronze, so Great Britain's wait for a second World Athletics Championships medal goes on. Joe Townsend reports from London's Olympic Park.
700ths of a second separated Muir and Caster Semenya. The gap from 4th to 1st was just 0.38. It was cruel. Sophie Hitchin was the other day 4 medal hope, but the Olympic hammer bronze medalist came 7. Mo Farah's gold on Friday remains Britain's only podium finish. That's unlikely to change today, with just one home finalist in action. Kyle Langford goes in the 800.
England cricket captain Joe Root says Moeen Ali is getting better and better. Ali took 5 wickets in England's 4th Test win over South Africa at Old Trafford as they wrapped up the series 3-1. However, England head coach Trevor Bayliss says there's still room for improvement.
I'd still like to see us score a few more runs at the top of the order. We're still looking for guys to get their hands up there. But, it was hard-fought wins. I thought the wickets throughout the series were good cricket wickets. If you batted well, you scored runs. If you bowled well, you took wickets, whether you're a pace bowler or a spinner.
The League Cup kicks off in England and Wales tonight. Among the first-round ties, Northampton, who knocked out top-flight West Brom in last season's competition, travel to QPR. After winning promotion to the Football League in the previous campaign, Lincoln go up against Rotherham, and there's an all-London clash as AFC Wimbledon take on Brentford. The Holders Celtic start their Scottish League Cup campaign tonight. They take on Kilmarnock in the second round. There's an all-Premiership clash between St Johnstone and Partick. Elsewhere, Hibernian host Ayr, while Falkirk play Livingston.
Forces News. Headlines.
Japan is warning of an increasing threat from North Korea's development of longer-range ballistic missiles. China's foreign ministers confirmed that Beijing will enforce the latest UN sanctions against North Korea. The Pentagon says military installations in the United States will now be allowed to shoot down drones that could endanger aviation safety, and a number of competitors taking part in the World Athletics Championships in London have come down with suspected